Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. I'm glad to hear today. I'm glad to be back home. Had a great adventure, and we'll talk about it a lot later. We'll talk about a lot of it later, but we're going to, we got a big show lineup, so I'm going to get through the weather pretty fast and get back with our guests. We've got a lot of good stuff to go over. Our weather brought to us by Haney Technical Center. High today all the way up to 83, low 61. But when I get back into town, guess what? The water temperature, boom, all the way up to 74 degrees. That's the warmest it's been this year so far. It's looking good. Our river reading brought to us by Sandhill Seafood. I can't wait to get back up there and get some fresh seafood next couple of days. We're looking at Apalachicola, Bluntstown. It's dropping out a little bit. It's reading a 10.7. It's still high. Anytime you're getting double digits on Apalachicola, it's high. But it is dropping now. All right, Choctaw at Caryville, it's dropping a little bit. It's at a 5.7. Should be in good shape, good shape this weekend. Now, we're talking about good shape this weekend. Our tide chart, if you take a look at it, it's brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn. Great tides the rest of all week long, all the way through the weekend. We have a high tide at 10:32 this morning, and a low at 9:15 tonight. And our marine forecast, pretty typical this time of year. South-southeast at about 10 to 15. It's not blowing quite as hard, but it's still blowing. Okay, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back with our special guest. Okay, welcome back, folks, and look who's here, our first day back, Travis Bashford. Good morning, Travis.
Good morning.
Good to have you. And now we brought on an expert. We're glad to have Mike Norberg. Good morning, Mike.
Thanks for having me.
Marine biologist, and Travis and I were talking, and it's Travis's idea to get some scientific background on all this. So I'm going to let you and Mike talk a lot about what's going on, because so much is going on now with our saltwater fishery. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about your background, then I want you and Travis to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I grew up in the Panhandle, so this is home to me. After spending some time at University of West Florida for my undergraduate degree in marine biology, I went to South Alabama, got my master's down there, and then took some time down in St. Pete working on the research side with FWC, doing fisheries independent monitoring. So taking that research, catching the fish, counting the fish, and measuring them. And then I spent some time in the Keys, having fun down there, working for a different state agency, and took this position about a year and a half ago up here. Now I'm working with the data that I used to collect. I use it now for informing management. Okay,
and Travis, you know, so much going on. You're on the other side of law enforcement. I know you talk so well of having Mike on and everything. So, just talk about what is going on.
He's got a wealth of knowledge, and we're going to go over some of this, for instance, refishing stuff that changes, a lot. And he's just, actually, if you've been to some of the workshops around the Panhandle, you've probably seen Mike, the sea trout workshops, cobia, stuff like that. He gets to interact with a lot of our stakeholders, and just a wealth of knowledge you hear from his background. So fishing's going great. I think a lot of people are excited about the refishing season this year. We're going to have a really long season for a lot of different species, so we can just jump right in and start talking about it.
Yeah, let's get on it.
So as of yesterday, Greater Amberjack opened in state and federal waters, a big opening here in the Panhandle, and it's going to coincide with triggerfish, which has been open for a while, and that's going to be open from May through May 31st, okay? And then the thing about amberjack and triggerfish in the past, they've kind of mirrored their closures in the summer, and they're going to do that again this year in June and July, and then they're going to reopen August 1st, okay, and amberjack will run through August 31st, and then triggerfish through December 15th. Now our size limits and bag limits remain the same, but I'll let Mike talk about how this season just increases the fishing opportunities, and also if we go over the quota, which we talked about in the past, how that could close.
Yeah, so one of the interesting things with amberjack and triggerfish, historically we've had issues of exceeding the quota in past years. Mm-hmm. So the idea behind opening the season later in the spring and allowing it to continue into the fall will kind of help increase the fishing opportunities of multiple species at the same time. So instead of only having one at a time, there's multiple that people can target. So that's the idea behind that. The one thing to keep in mind with those, they are managed by the federal fisheries the Gulf Council. So, and they're managed by a quota system. So if we exceed that quota, there is the potential that those seasons could close early, similar to the way we've seen in the past. But hopefully that won't happen with this new season structures.
Yeah, so it's going to be a great opportunity. I know triggerfish has been great this spring. I've talked to some charter captains and private recreational anglers going out there catching big triggerfish. And then, of course, you throw amberjack in there, it's going to be good stuff. So that's kind of what we're looking like in the month of May. And then also, as we get into June, gag groupers are going to open up. It's been open to the east of us. And how have you been hearing about that season?
I've been hearing really good reports. Really good reports. And on Friday's show, I'm going to give you the secret weapon while they're catching those on. So.
There you go, there you go. And I have too. I've heard some good things over to the east, and so glad they opened that over there. But as far as west, Gulf County and westward in the Panhandle, that'll open June 1st for gag, and that'll run through the end of the year. Same size limit, 24 inches and 2 per day. And then we talked about, I think last time on the show, before that opens up, make sure you know the difference between a gag and a black. We have very few black up here, correct, Mike?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so and the reason that's important is because there's no season on black up here, and there is on gag. So, and then we'll get to the next topic that I think everyone's really excited about: red snapper.
Red snapper. Okay, I'll tell you what. We'll take a break and we'll come back and tell you everything you ever want to know about a red snapper. So we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, folks. I'm here with Travis and Mike Norberg, our marine biologist out here with FWC. Before we get back with them, a couple of quick announcements. I want to thank Mandy Miller-Warren for doing the show for me yesterday. It was so nice to have some pretty ladies, and Diana Taunton was on the show with us. We had some pretty ladies on yesterday, now we're back to ugly guys, so we try to keep a balance on it too. But thank you two ladies. And also talk to Bobo Hobbs, Captain Bobo Hobbs, Florida Queen. They're trying to put together a 25-hour trip this weekend. Go online, check with them. It's going to be $200 for 2 days of fishing. Leave Saturday at 12 o'clock, come back Sunday at 1 o'clock. I don't know. I love those trips. I may or may not go on this one, but anyway, it's a great opportunity to catch some really good big beeliners and all. So here we go. Let's start rolling about the red snapper.
Absolutely. Red snapper. Okay. So I think everyone's excited. I'm sure most of y'all, if you like to go offshore and reef fish, you've heard the news. So I'm going to read the dates here and then let Mike talk a little bit about how we arrived at these dates. But the official season for private recreational anglers, state and federal waters, is going to open June 11th and run till July 20th. Okay, that's going to be our season, 40 days. That's a good season, I would say, most people would say. And then Mike's going to talk about how do we get to that point, because it was a process, wasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely was a process. So the exciting thing about these changes with red snapper, especially this year, is it's a management opportunity for each of the Gulf states to manage both state and federal waters off of their state. So in the past, NOAA Fisheries has managed federal waters, and the states have managed their respective state waters. So this is definitely an exciting opportunity to test that management, the state and federal management of red snapper. Yeah. So the little bit, just the background in a nutshell, was there is a series of different proposals that were submitted to the federal fisheries management, and through different conversations we've had with stakeholders and our commissioners and the governor, we decided that because other states were doing a longer season, we wanted to have a season that was more closely in line with that. So that was how we derived the 40-day season. It's all been science-based, trying to maximize our harvest, of the amount of fish that we can catch, while attempting not to exceed the quota. We want to definitely hit it on the dot. That way we're getting all the fish that we can.
You were telling me before the show, your favorite outdoor activity is diving.
Absolutely.
So you get down there and you see a lot, and then you research. What's your take on the red snapper population?
So I mean, there's no denying that the red snapper population is improving. If you remember back in the early 2000s when they really started cranking down on federal regulations for red snapper, it was definitely necessary. But the benefits of that, and the proof is in the pudding, that there has been a rebound in the population. It needs to continue to grow. It's still in its rebuilding period, but it's definitely getting there, so that's always a plus. And that's the idea behind management. Okay. Rebuild stuff if necessary.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at red snapper. I mean, I'm from here, you're from here. You know that. I mean, I know growing up when I was a kid, it was rare to see, a 30-plus inch red snapper, and now it seems like you see them pretty common every year. I mean, I think it's definitely come back great, and a lot of people I think are going to be excited with this season. So.
Well, we've talked about this before, and it's just something exciting about the red snapper.
Right.
It goes back, 100 years ago.
Absolutely.
They were coming down from Alabama and Georgia and all over catching. In fact, when I decided to do the cover of the book, I was going to only put one fish on it, flounder and grouper and brim and everything else. And the one fish I put on it was a red snapper, and we always call that the money fish.
It is.
That's what it came. That was a money fish. That's what it came down here for, and it still goes on today. Everybody just, almost fanatical about red snapper.
It's definitely an iconic fishery.
And that's why y'all have to do such a very specific job managing it, because it would get out of hand.
And yeah, it's frustrating to some because they see regulations. But I think that the payoff that we're seeing now is definitely better.
What's the life cycle of a red snapper? Roughly?
So the interesting thing with red snapper is they can live to be 55 years old.
No way.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't understand that, and like Travis was just saying, in the past where you had a lot of smaller fish, the problem with the population in the past was it was a very young population. When you have a fish that can live to be 55 years old, you definitely want to spread out the age classes within that population. But back in the early 2000s, really back starting in the 80s, that population dwindled down to only a few years old. A majority of the fish were only a few years old. So from a sustainability perspective, it's important to spread that out.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
That's an old fish.
I'm telling you, man. And also the data, y'all kept that data, so you have your curves and all that in the data of the population as far as that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of moving wheels in red snapper right now. One of the exciting things is we're expecting a stock assessment, a new federal stock assessment to come out this summer. So we should be in the process of reviewing that soon. FWC has their stakes in being able to review the federal assessment. And so we're excited about that, and that could bring changes, even next year. So it's definitely something that we're looking forward to.
That's interesting.
That's great, and they do a great job, and that's the whole. Just tying it back into the whole mission of FWC is, we want to manage that resource for the benefit of the resource and the people, and I think we're seeing this with red snapper. As we try to do with all species. So. Excited about it. And then another thing too, if you just want to go on a charter, the federal season is going to open on its normal date. It's June 1st through July 22nd. I want to throw that out there. A lot of people, that's what they do. They just like to go out there and charter a few times during the season.
We've got a tradition, and we go that first weekend of June with Billy Archer, and it's one of my most pleasant trips all year round. So and a lot of people do the same thing. They got their weekend in June, and they'll go, and we just have a wonderful time.
Yep.
Yeah, and one quick thing I wanted to add in there, something that we're doing different this year for the state charter guys. They're required to sign up for the charter reef fish survey. So it's a way that we're hoping to be able to have a better idea of how many state charter guys are out there fishing for reef fish. So if they intend to harvest red snapper, vermilion snapper, the amberjacks, groupers, then they need to sign up for this survey. It's a free thing to sign up. All they need to do is go to their tax collector's office and tell them that they would like to sign up for the survey, and they'll print them a new license. So it's something that will be for the next 2 years. It's a pilot study similar to this exempted fishing permit.
Okay.
Or this state management.
How do you get data from the private fishermen? That's a tough thing. Got to be a tough thing to do.
Yeah. So there's a variety of different methods that we use. There's phone surveys, mail surveys, dockside surveys. So a lot of times anglers will be stopped at a dock, and there's a biologist that wants to look at their fish. They want to know what they caught. They're there to get an idea of how many fish, what size, different species and stuff like that. And that information is used to survey essentially the private recreational fishermen.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
We were talking about I don't know if you saw, it does show on the screen, these notes and all these guys. These guys are so well prepared. I got a little scratched out stuff here. Look at this. You think they're getting a master's degree in this or something, but you got a good list.
Well, Mike has a master's degree.
Well, I know.
He's got it in it. So.
What else you got on your list?
One more thing about red snapper. I just want to bring us a little scenario up. We've had some people ask the questions, have comments about it, because we've got some differences, and just real quick we'll talk about it. Just a scenario, for instance, Alabama's season is going to open on June 1st, their private recreational angler season. Florida's June 11th, like we just talked about. So if you were in Escambia County, Pensacola, could you go out of Pensacola, go over to Alabama state waters, have an Alabama fishing license, on June 1st or when they're open, and then return to Florida when Florida's closed and say, hey, here's my Alabama fishing license. These are Alabama fish. I caught them over there. And the answer is,
you can do that, but
right.
It's not legal.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do a lot of things. But in that scenario, or one like that, no, you can't. You have to land the fish in an open state.
Right.
So I want to get that information out there for everybody. If you do want to take advantage of Alabama opening early, because their season is a little different than ours, you need to take your vessel over to Alabama, launch in Orange Beach or wherever, and then land it in an open state. So I want to get that out there for our viewers to the west.
And another example,
clear that up.
Another example would be the grouper down in Franklin County catching the grouper down there out of Indian Pass and come back to Indian Pass.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
So, you know, I think we've talked about that a lot, so hopefully we all know that. Let's take a final break. We'll come back and we'll give away rod and reel. Okay, welcome back. We got to move quickly. A lot more stuff. Our fishing game time today, brought to us by Blue Water Outriggers, is they're 232 to 432 and 256 to 456. We're going to do a quick giveaway. Duck Dynasty rod and reel. What do you think about this, Travis? What can you catch with this?
That's nice. A little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. Okay. And of course, a bucket full of stuff. Y'all know what all is in the bucket. And we're going to let Travis going to hold the bucket, and Mike Norberg, he's going to want to draw out your name. So
all right,
this.
let's give it a shot.
Draw somebody that really likes us. The winner is
Bill Pardue
from Bayou
George.
Bayou George. Okay, Bill, we got you. All right, let's get back to our game plan. What we got going on? What else?
Oh, we got all kinds of stuff going on. So we just had the meeting. FWC just had their meeting down in Fort Lauderdale, and we had some final rule changes get voted on and passed. And a big one for our area that we've been talking about a while. We've had a lot of our stakeholders up here express interest in it is the sheep's head fishery. And that was one where it is primarily driven by, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, was stakeholder input.
There was a lot of stakeholder input that drove
this rule change, and we kind of saw it go back and forth, but the final ruling was that the old bag limit is 15 and the new one is going to go to 8.
Okay.
So we had heard 5 and 10 and it went to 8. And then I'll let Mike talk about, there's still a vessel limit for the spawn, right, in March and April.
Yep. So that March and April vessel limit of 50 fish per person, per vessel, I'm sorry,
okay,
is still applies for sheep's head.
Yep. And that's important because people would just go out there and when you used to be able to have 15 and they put as many people as they can on the boat and really load it up. Yeah. So that's a great thing that I think is happening for our area. Still 8 fish per person, a lot of fish. And then triple tail also changed. That went right along with the proposal, 15 to 18 inches.
Okay.
Total length on triple tail. Excuse me, and that's still 2 per person per day. Now, one thing about these sheep's head and triple tail regulations is they got extended into federal waters.
Okay.
Okay, which, Mike, what does that mean?
So anytime there's a species that's not managed by the federal fisheries, the states have the opportunity to extend their regulations into federal waters.
Okay.
So since there's no management for triple tail or sheep's head out in federal waters,
we
felt that it was necessary to
good point
do
there.
That.
Yeah, because triple tail is almost wide open out there, and now you can only have 2, 18 inches. And then the big change as far as federal on triple tail, we know it's a pelagic fish that goes out there and then they're on floating structures. You can't spear them out there now.
Okay.
Because the state regulation got extended. So that's one thing important to remember. And another thing too, the pelagic migratory species come through our area. We talked about pompano earlier on the break. Like, they're in here thick as anything, and we're seeing a lot of good pompano get caught. But cobia, one thing that was decided some meetings, several meetings ago, they talked about a cobia change. And that was some workshops that took place across the state. But they put that change in. It's 2 per vessel. The size limit's the same, 33 inches at the fort. But you can only have 2 per vessel. You used to be able to have 6.
Okay.
That is in effect now. It actually went in. Usually we see these rule changes, around January or July. This one went in February. Okay. But it's in effect. So when you're cobia fishing out there, only 2 per boat. And then these sheep's head and triple tail regulations, they're going to go effect July 1st.
Okay.
Okay. So important to remember, you might not see it on the paper regulation. Go online, check that stuff. That's the stuff that's updated the quickest. And then also we have the app you can get on your phone, So that's a great thing. And let's see. I guess we can probably go ahead and do you want to do the case
Let's
of the
go
month?
ahead. Yeah, we'll talk about sharks later on, but we don't have time. We always got to get the case of the month. We've got a couple minutes left, so I know you have some exciting things. So what's going on?
Oh, absolutely. I wanted to recognize Officer Jason Litford in Gulf County. He does a great job for us over there. This is getting back to the freshwater side of things. We're coming off that full moon. I've heard a lot of good things about Bremen shellcracker. Excuse me, but Jason Litford, he was on patrol on the intercoastal waterway between White City and Lake Wimico. I know you're familiar with that area.
Everybody knows that area.
And he stopped a vessel, one guy on board, and did a resource inspection. And he said, hey, you know, how are you doing? What'd you catch? The guy said, I've caught some shellcracker, which is very common for this time of year. So he said, okay, we'll just need to take a look. Well, he opens up the live well, and there's 3 bass in there. And he said, thought you said you had shellcracker. He said, oh yeah, I got some bass in there too. Okay. So he says, well, let me look in your cooler. Opens up the cooler and there's some shellcracker. But this cooler, I mean, it's a good sized cooler and it's to the top with shellcracker. I mean, just laying on top of each other. And he says, how many you got? And he goes, oh, I think I got about 10. And Officer Litford's looking, he's like, man, I can see 10, right, more than 10 right here. So he said, why don't you give me the cooler, let me take a look. So a further inspection revealed he had the shellcracker on top. Underneath the shellcracker was a thin layer of ice, and underneath that thin layer of ice were 17 more bass.
Holy cow!
Yeah, so it was a good good thing you took a closer look. So, anyways, so the guy was caught, and as we know, you can only have 5 bass per day, and this guy with the 17 plus the 3 had 20. So he had 20 bass, and then obviously had put some thought into concealing them with the shellcracker, the ice, and then the bass at the bottom.
Wow.
So anyways, good case by Jason Litford over in Gulf County, and he cited the individual for possession over the daily bag limit of black bass. So,
wow.
Good job, Jason.
You know, we all, you know, like we talk about over and over again, you know, it just don't, I don't understand these things. I don't. Why you want to do something like that? I mean, go down, if you really fish hungry, go down to Tarpon Dock and buy some fish. Don't steal them from the rest of us.
There you go.
We got to wrap things up. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
And we're going to be, anytime we have a question or something, you can email me or Travis or something, and we'll get information and get answers from a scientific viewpoint there.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you, and Travis, always you do a good job and very organized, and we got to get back in the field now, I guess.
We do. So it's just it's really heating up as far as fishing, and it's going to be hopefully a safe, busy summer season.
Oh, so. Sounds good. Folks, thank y'all for watching Panhandle Outdoors. Appreciate the viewership. Do something good today for your fellow man, and God bless.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.